All right, hello again. So in this video, we're going to go over using some of the masking tools to make some selective adjustments in Camera Raw. So what we're going to do is take this image, which is the original. It's a good image as far as like a fun expression, and the composition's okay, stuff like that. This guy was a little bit nuts, scared me a little bit, but this is in Florence, I think, Italy. But yeah, but it's not really useful that way. It's not great that way, right? So we're gonna make it look something like that, not exactly, but just to show you how some of the masking tools work and how you can use them to adjust things separately, not the whole image like you saw before. So hopefully you saw the Camera Raw intro to Camera Raw video already. So you've seen some of this, at least what Camera Raw is and how it basically works already. So this is kind of building on that and using some of the selection or some of the masking tools. So I'm going to double click this guy to open it here. And then I'm not going to do anything else first because this seems to mess it up a little bit if I do anything first besides the masking stuff. At least on this image. And it supposedly uses machine learning and AI and all that kind of stuff to do some of this. So maybe I got it confused. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the masking tool here. I'm going to click on that. And you can see there's a bunch of different masks that you can do. You can select the subject, which is supposed to figure out what the subject is. Hopefully it figures out it's him. You can select the sky. You can basically paint in masks using the brush. You can do a linear gradient, which fades from one thing to the next, a selection basically. And then you can also do a radial gradient, and you may have seen these in other videos already, so I'm just kind of going over them again. You can do color range, which selects by color, and you can do luminance range, which selects by brightness. Luminance is brightness. So first thing I'm gonna do is try to select him. I'm just gonna click on select subject and see if it does it. Oh, it did pretty good this time. Sometimes it doesn't work. So now I've selected him. What I want to do though is I want to brighten him up. Obviously I could do something like that, right? But then that looks kind of weird because why is this all dark and he's not? So I'm gonna undo that. I'm gonna add on to this mask. So up here you can see the mask panel. You can drag this out and put it wherever you want. It shows up, I think, by default over here. But let me just go through the pieces of this real quick. So up here you can see the mask visibility. You can click on that and kind of hide it and show it. You can see what the mask looks like. So the way that a mask works, and this is the same in Photoshop, and you may see it in other videos as well, is the adjustments we make with that mask. That's hard to say. They're only going to affect the clear areas of the mask, or the white areas. So if you guys can see that, he's kind of white. He is, that's why that's showing in green. I changed the mask color, or the overlay color too. It's usually red. It's usually like that, something like that. But you can change the color right here. So that's what's going to be affected by this. And then here are the components. So you can have one mask with different components. So this was the AI thing. It did the subject, and then, but if you want to refine that or add to it, you can. You can click on add to add more parts to the mask, or you can click on subtract to subtract. So that's what that looks like. Also under here, you can see, you can invert masks and things like that. And then there's also a menu here that's easy to miss. It's the more overlay settings. You can change how the mask looks. So let me zoom out so you can see it. What you're seeing. So this is image on black and white, image on black, image on white. So it just helps you see the mask a little bit better. And it's not the best edge, but we'll just go with it. And then there's white on black. You can see the mask itself, much like in Photoshop. But I'll leave it a color overlay. And I kind of like the green better. You guys like the green better? I can see it better. I don't know why. All right, so I want to add to this mask. I want to add in this edge of this bridge. So what I'm going to do is up here in the mask area, you can see I have subject 1. That was the auto selection from Camera Raw. I'm going to click on add. So if I click on add, you can see I can pick what do I want to add. I wouldn't add the subject again. I could add the sky. I want to add a brush actually. So I'm going to click on brush. And then a brush is the one of these tools that has more settings available to you, or one of them anyway. So you have size, that's obviously the size of the brush, right? Feather is how soft an edge it is. So when you have 2 lines in the brush, that means it's fading from that inside circle to the outside circle. If I go to 0, you'll see it's like 2 circles right next to each other. Flow is kind of how fast it comes out. It's kind of like an airbrush or something. And then density is how solid it is. And then your auto mask is going to help select edges. You'll see that in a second. So I'm going to zoom back out. And what I'm going to do is use my square brackets. I could go over here and do it, but it's easier to do with the square brackets. And I'm going to paint in right here. So I'm not going to get near the edge because I'm going to turn on the auto mask for that. So right now I'm painting solidly. Then I'm going to turn on auto mask right there. And what that's supposed to do, sometimes it works pretty good, sometimes it doesn't work as well, is it's going to look for edges and try to not go over the edge. So it kind of worked there, right? What you don't want is that little cursor in the middle to get into, and I kind of messed up there, but I'll show you how to fix that. I don't want to get into the water because I'm trying not to see. See, it didn't do as well down there. So it did well on this areas up here where there's a hard edge, but it didn't do well here where the colors were pretty similar. It uses colors a lot and like that. So I need to fix some things on this mask. So I could click on this little guy right here, which is the eraser. And the eraser has its own size and feather settings. So I like to use kind of a hard edge on this one. So I'm gonna make the feather pretty small and I'll leave the flow at 100. And I'll use again, a square brackets to do the size. So I want a hard edge because I'm just gonna get rid of what I painted. And I'm doing this really roughly because, you know, you guys didn't want to watch me do a good job. You want me to do a mediocre job. That's what you paid for, right? That way you won't spend all day on this. And then I'm gonna go in here and I didn't mean to get this area, so I'm gonna take that out real roughly. And you can always change the size of your brushes to get, you know, whatever you need. I'm gonna get rid of these windows. They shouldn't have been selected or masked. And I guess I'll leave this person off, so I'll get rid of them too. But I will go in and I'll zoom in a little bit, and you can use this space bar just like in Photoshop to move around, and Command plus and minus to zoom in again. Whoops. And I need to go back here, make a smaller brush and paint that guy in. And you can see it did an okay job on parts of this. I know you can always hold down Option 2 or Alt. Instead of clicking these buttons, you can hold down Option or Alt, and that will temporarily take you to the eraser. That's not great, but it's good enough. Close enough for our demo here, our exercise. So now I've got a mask of just the guy and the bridge, right? So I combine those by clicking Add. You can see there's more things under there. Under subtract, you can add as many of those components as you want. Also, underneath each one of these, you can say intersect mask with them, and it will add it'll add on the mask as another mask or another part of the mask. Let's put it that way. You can also duplicate it, hide it, delete it, things like that. You can invert a mask. I mean, I'll show you that if I remember. And yeah, some other things as well. So there's lots of things underneath these little and more things there. So basically what I wanted to do though is I wanted to, now that I have him selected along with the bridge, I'm going to bring the exposure up, and anytime you make an adjustment and the mask is active, the overlay goes off. You can show it again if you want, but I don't want to see it because I don't know what's going on, right? So I'm just bringing that up. Now he's getting brighter. The bridge is getting brighter. It's a little cool to me, a little cold, so I'm going to go to the temperature slider and warm him up and the bridge. It's very blue, right? I'm going to go quite a bit. Something like that. And I think that's about it. Yeah, let's see. Maybe even a little, let's bring up the shadows just a little bit. Don't want to do it too much because then it looks like, oh, that looks fake, right? It may look fake anyway, but that's pretty close, I think. Yeah, I think that works pretty well. Okay, so now we did that part. I wanted to show you a couple of other things you could do. So I want to reduce the brightness of this, or just enhance it. Let's put it that way. Let's do the sky first. I'm going to click up here and I'm going to say create new mask right up here. And I'm going to say select sky. I want to show you that. So that works pretty well. That's AI, right? Machine learning, all that Terminator stuff. And up here, we can see that the sky is selected. I'm going to make, I'm not going to do anything to it beyond that. I'm just going to bring the exposure down a little bit and then bring the temperature a little cooler. And I think that's about it. Oh, maybe I'll make the saturation just a little bit more, make a little more bluer sky. So there's before and after. And each one of these, I could go ahead and click on the eyeball to see that effect. So I just changed that sky to much bluer and kind of darker. It was kind of like washed out and gray, right? So you click on this eyeball, it does all the masks. This one does that mask. This one does that mask, right? So there we go with that one. I want to show you also color range. So I'm going to click on a new mask, create a new mask again, and go to color range. And color range selects by color, just like it does in Photoshop for millions of years. Since the beginning of time, it's had a color range selected. So all I have to do here is click and drag in a color, like I click and drag on that wall. If I want to select more, I can hold down Shift and select over here. So I'm trying to get these walls. And you can see it didn't really select him. It's selecting by color. Now, so I did that by color range. You can refine it here. I think it was fine in the middle probably. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the exposure go down a little bit, darken those walls a little bit, just in those colors that I selected. And I'm going to shift the colors just a tiny bit towards that way, just a little bit, and increase the saturation. So I increased the saturation a little bit, I shifted the color a tiny bit, and that's about all I did, right? So now if I look at that one, here you can see that's the sky. Here's the wall mask. And remember, you can always go under here and see what the masks look like. There's that mask. See, it just got that color, right? Pretty cool. And I'll turn off the overlay. So there we go, I did that one. So so we did select subject, we did select sky, we did brush, linear gradient. Not sure that's applicable here really, unless we wanted to do, let's just do one more brush. I did want to do one more brush. So I'm gonna go new mask with the brush. I'm gonna make it bigger, and I'm gonna paint in here. I'm gonna turn off the auto mask. And I'm just getting the big parts, and then again I'm going to turn on auto mask again and try to get the edges. And I won't get too close to the edge here because I don't want to go back and fix things. I'll fix it a little. That edge, I don't want that. Probably missed some, but get the idea. So now I've got the water, right? I'm going to make the water darker, just so it gives it a little more pop on the buildings. And then I will, yeah, I think that's about it. And I will bump up the texture and the clarity a little bit. And there we go. So I think that is pretty good. I'll show you the, you'll probably see the other two masks, the linear gradient and the radial gradient, in a different video. So I think this one's probably long enough. But I just wanted to kind of show you that how that kind of works. You can stack up as many of these as you want. Yes, and you can always edit them, you can delete them, you can turn them on and off. But it's a way to do adjustments in certain areas that don't affect the whole image, of course. They just affect certain parts of the image. Like that one affected the water, and this one affected the buildings, and this one affected the sky, and this one affected the guy on the bridge. All right, I think that is, there's a little bit more to that, but that's probably good enough for now on the mask. Right, and I will talk to you again. Not so fast, Mark Garrett. Of course, when I did that video a couple of months ago, Adobe added some things on selecting using AI and stuff. So I wanted to show you that. So here I have another image. I'm going to double click it here. And now if I go to masking, click on that, it looks a little bit different than the earlier. Just they have these big buttons for background, sky, and subject, but now there's also objects and people, which I'll show you in a minute. So I'm going to click on object, and then what I can do is I can either lasso or I can paint. So I'm just going to paint around this. That was a default. I didn't do anything to it. I think that's the default. I'm just going to paint this camera here and voila, it's selected. Now I did kind of also select inside of here, so I'm gonna make a smaller brush, hit Option, and that's minus. So I'm gonna minus that little part. And it actually, whoops, and then, yeah, I lost a little piece of it there, but I think you get the idea. It actually kind of works sometimes, and then it kind of, so I have to go up here to, yeah, that one, and then add that back in. Kind of works sometimes. It's mediocre, I would say. At this point, it's going to get better. It's machine learning, AI, they're going to take over, all that kind of stuff, right? So that is the object selection. Let me get out of that one. I really wanted to show you the people selection, which is actually pretty amazing. So I'm going to go over here, and I've got this collection. So I'm open this image. So this has 4 people in it. So if I go to masking up here in the top right again, click on that, and you can see it's looking for people, and it found them already. I think it already did this, so it's a little quicker. But if I roll over this is kind of crazy. It'll roll. You can roll over the faces here in the people, and you'll see that it highlights the individual people, except that's not her arm. So it's not perfect. But let's say I wanted to do something to this guy, right? So I'm going to click on him. Then you get even more control. You can select different parts of them, like their facial skin, their body skin. Oh, it does know it's him. Okay. Eyebrows, eye sclera. I can't even say that word. It's the whites of the eyes. Iris and pupil, lips, teeth, hair, etc. So lots of crazy stuff. I'm going to select his facial skin and click create. And that looks kind of weird, right? But what I can do, maybe I'll select, that's fine, just to show you. And then if I wanted to say, well, he's a little too dark, a little too light, I can just adjust him a little bit, make him a little bit brighter. That's all. The rest of the things are all kind of the same. You can adjust as needed, but that is something kind of brand new, so I wanted to add that on. Okay, so now we are really done, and I will talk to you again later.